Thank you. Good morning. Imagine a workplace with no conflict. Having some trouble imagining that? We'll try this. Imagine a workplace where conflict and disrespectful behavior are addressed by talking it out, where investigations are rare, and where employees are provided with the support they need to sort out their differences. So that's what the Yukon Government is working towards. Everybody here know where the Yukon is? Just checking, because I recently met an accountant from Quebec who thought we were part of the United States. So we're one of the 3 territories, the most westerly one, about a 2-hour flight north of Vancouver. The Yukon's home to about 38,000 people and 70,000 moose. 30,000 of those people live right in Whitehorse, and all the rest live in the 15 surrounding rural communities. And about 4,000 of those are employed by the Yukon Government. So they're employed as admin assistants, teachers, scientists, geologists, janitors, road foremen, and heavy-duty mechanics, to name a few. Some of them are introverts and some are extroverts. Some communicate really directly and some communicate in a more diverse style. Some sit at computers all day and some work with their hands. Some are new to the Yukon and to Canada, and their first language is not English. And some, about 15% of the Yukon Government workforce, come from one of the 14 First Nations who've lived in the Yukon since the beginning of time. So with all of those differences, how could there not be conflict? Well, about 5 years ago, the Yukon Government senior management concluded that the harassment investigation process that was being used to deal with those kind of situations really wasn't working. And in fact, they concluded that it was harming employees and damaging workplaces. And so they took a fairly drastic step and shut down the office. It's not really surprising that the investigation process wasn't working well. As soon as you even say that word, everyone's on the defensive. Employees are told not to talk to each other or to their coworkers about what happened. And then several months go by and there's some fact finding, and one is told they're right and the other's wrong, and one's to blame and one's not. And then they're told to go back and work together. So that process doesn't really work. It doesn't really benefit anybody, and it doesn't result in engaged employees. So the Yukon Government brought some consultants in to work with the human resource community, the unions, so the Yukon Employees Union and the Teachers Association, deputy ministers, and the Aboriginal Employees Forum, to see if they could develop a new approach and a new policy to deal with these kind of situations. And this consultative process was key to finding a better way of addressing conflict and disrespectful behavior in the workplace. For one thing, it ensured buy-in from all those groups, and a really key buy-in was that the unions agreed to give up their right to grieve complaints of harassment or bullying in favor of using the new respectful workplace processes. And these processes are collaborative. They're based on ADR, or appropriate dispute resolution, which recognizes that conflict is normal and unavoidable in a diverse workforce. And it also recognizes that each situation is unique and calls for a different response. The new policy and approach also recognizes that disrespectful behavior often arises when someone is really not aware that their behavior is inappropriate and that it's having an impact on their coworkers and the workplace. Or situations where people end up in conflict, but they don't really have the skills or maybe the confidence to work it out themselves. So our starting place is training. We start with helping people become more aware of their own lenses and their own perspectives, and then develop some better communication skills. We also do a lot of one-on-one coaching with employees, where we help them become more self-aware of the approaches that they're using, and develop the skills they need to have those really challenging conversations. Often the conflict coaching leads to a facilitated conversation. So we coach both people and then bring them together in a safe, structured environment with a skilled mediator to talk about whatever's going on between them. Sometimes the whole workplace is struggling, and in those situations we do a workplace assessment. So we sit down with every person in the workplace and we ask them 3 questions. What's working well? What's not working well? And what needs to change to make it better? And those 3 questions usually elicit enough information that we can get some sense of what's causing or contributing to the conflict. Sometimes it's a situation with an abrasive manager who's risen to that position because of their technical expertise, but doesn't really have the leadership skills necessary to manage people. In these situations, we provide coaching to the manager, and then we work with their supervisor to set really clear expectations and to monitor their progress. In the 4 years under the new policy, we haven't done any investigations, although the policy does give us the ability to do that. And we have had 3 situations of really serious disrespectful behavior. In these situations, we've followed the normal process, which is to gather information about what's going on. And then we have collaborated with the unions, HR, and management to assess whether the relationships or the workplace can be restored, given whatever's gone on. And in all 3 of those situations, we concluded that even if those people could change their behavior, so much damage had been done that the relationships in the workplace couldn't be restored, and they were released from their employment. So this process of collaborating with the unions and HR and management is really key. In being able to sit down and have everybody in the same room and have a frank, constructive discussion about what's going on really enables us to get to the heart of the problem and then focus our energy where it's going to have some impact. Is the process perfect? No. HR and management continue to do investigations, sometimes in situations where the relationship is really the heart of the problem, and where our view at the Respectful Workplace Office would be that if we address the relationship issues, the other problems might sort themselves out. So we're working on that. Last week, we held a think tank with about 20 HR directors, brought them together, did some dialogue and some exercises to kind of figure out what their role is, what our role is, and how we might work together better for the sake of the workplace and for employees. So it's not perfect yet. There's a few processes that still need to be massaged. However, imagine a respectful, healthy, and well-functioning workplace where conflict is seen as normal and unavoidable, and where an employee's first thought when a conflict arises is to get some coaching and support so that they can talk it out. That's what the Yukon Government is working towards. Thank you.